stop scrolling because you're about to enter a place no one escapes. Beneath the palace of Crete lies the Labyrinth, a living maze of stone and shadow built to keep one nightmare hidden from the world. Inside it waits the Minotaur, half man, half bull, listening, hunting, breathing in the dark. And yet one man chooses to walk in anyway. His name is Theseus, the hero of Athens. He doesn't enter for glory, he enters to end a curse that has been feeding on his people. No map, no mercy, just cold walls, endless turns, and a single fragile hope in his hand. Ariadne's thread, a thin line of light in a world that wants him to disappear. Because the real question isn't whether Theseus can defeat the monster. The real question is, can he find his way back out of the darkness alive? Theseus' story begins with a city drowning in fear. Athens is trapped under the power of Crete, forced to pay a terrible price again and again. Every cycle, young men and women are chosen and sent across the sea, not to prison, not to slavery, but to the Labyrinth. They are offerings, thrown into darkness where something waits. The Minotaur, a monster with the body of a man and the head of a bull, locked away beneath the palace like a secret shame that still demands blood. Athens can't fight Crete directly. The tribute continues. Families watch their children leave and never return. And over time, the fear becomes normal, until Theseus refuses to accept it. Theseus is the prince and rising hero of Athens, famous for courage and strength, but this is not a challenge he takes for sport. He volunteers to go with the next group of tributes, not as a victim, but as a weapon. He makes a promise that feels impossible. He will enter the Labyrinth, kill the Minotaur, and bring the survivors home. It's the kind of promise that can either free a city or break a man. The ship sails to Crete with black sails cutting through the sea. The air grows heavier as the island appears on the horizon. When Theseus steps onto Crete's shore, he isn't greeted like a guest. He's inspected like prey. King Minos watches from above with the cold confidence of someone who believes the labyrinth always wins. The tributes are herded forward. The palace looms, and beneath it, the maze waits like an open mouth. But inside the palace, someone is watching Theseus differently. Ariadne, Minos' daughter, sees him and feels something dangerous. Hope. Not just attraction, but the sense that this one might actually succeed. She knows the truth that makes the labyrinth so terrifying. Even if you kill the Minotaur, you still die if you can't find the exit. The maze isn't just a prison, it's a second monster. It eats direction, it swallows memory. It turns strong people into lost shadows until they collapse. So Ariadne makes a choice that could destroy her life. She approaches Theseus in secret and offers him the only weapon that can defeat the labyrinth itself, a simple spool of thread. Her plan is brilliant because it's small. No sword forged by gods, no magic spell, just a human idea. Theseus must tie the end of the thread at the entrance and unwind it as he moves deeper, so the path back will always exist. Ariadne also gives him guidance, how to face the maze, how to survive the fear, and how to hold on to purpose when the darkness tries to erase it. Theseus accepts, not because he thinks he can't do it without her, because he knows pride is useless in a place designed to kill heroes. Night falls, torches flicker, stone corridors breathe cold air. The tributes are pushed toward the entrance of the labyrinth like offerings being fed to a god. Theseus moves with them, calm on the outside, burning on the inside. At the threshold, he ties Ariadne's thread. The moment the knot tightens, it feels like the last connection to the living world. Then he steps into the maze. Inside, the labyrinth is silence and confusion. Corridors split without warning. Shadows stretch across carved walls. Every turn looks the same. The air smells like damp stone, old smoke, and something animal. The sound of footsteps bounces and returns from wrong directions. The mind begins to panic, because in a maze, you can't trust your senses. You start imagining movement behind you. You start hearing breathing that might be your own, or might not. Theseus keeps moving, unwinding the thread as he goes, one slow, deliberate choice after another. He doesn't run. He doesn't waste energy. He watches the floor. He marks the turns in his mind, and every few steps, he checks the thin line of thread to remind himself. There is still a way back. The others follow close behind, terrified. Some want to cry, some want to freeze. Theseus forces them forward, not with cruelty, but with urgency. Because standing still in the labyrinth is the first step toward death. Then they hear it. A deep sound. Half breath, half growl, rolling through the corridors like distant thunder. The Minotaur is near. The survivors press against the wall. A torch flickers. The air turns warmer, heavier, like the maze itself is holding its breath. Theseus tells the others to stay back. This is the moment he came for. He moves alone into the deeper dark. The Minotaur is not just a beast, it is a presence. When it steps into the torchlight, it's bigger than fear imagined it. Massive shoulders, human strength, the head of a bull, eyes that don't reason, only hunt. It doesn't speak. It doesn't threaten. It simply lowers its body like a predator ready to charge. And the labyrinth becomes an arena. The first attack comes fast, a sudden rush of weight and rage. Theseus dodges, the air tearing with the force of the charge. Stone shakes. Dust rains from the ceiling. The Minotaur turns, furious, snorting like a furnace. Theseus circles, looking for the rhythm of the monster, reading its movement like a storm. He can't fight the Minotaur the way he fights men. There's no negotiation, no hesitation. He must be precise. He must be brutal. He must control the space. He uses the walls. He uses the torchlight. He waits for the monster to commit, to overextend, to slam into stone. Then Theseus closes in, striking hard, driving forward with everything he has. The fight is a blur of shadow and impact, horns flashing past, feet scraping on rock, breath turning into steam. The Minotaur is strength without thought. Theseus is strength with purpose. And that difference matters. Finally, Theseus wins. The Minotaur collapses into the darkness, and the labyrinth, after endless hunger, falls quiet. But the danger isn't over, because killing the monster was only half the battle. The other half is escaping the maze before fear swallows them again. Theseus returns to the survivors, breathless but standing. He grabs the thread and commands them to follow. Now the thread becomes more than a trick, it becomes salvation. They move fast, stumbling, dragging each other, trying not to look into the endless corridors as if the Minotaur might rise again. The torchlight shakes. The maze seems to stretch, to resist, to make every step feel longer than the last. But the thread doesn't lie. It leads them through turn after turn, back toward the entrance, back toward air that tastes like freedom. When they finally see the opening, it's like seeing daylight after a lifetime underground. They burst out of the labyrinth alive, the first to ever do it. And in that moment, Athens' curse breaks. Theseus doesn't stop. He moves quickly, because Crete will not let this humiliation stand. He gathers the rescued youths, finds Ariadne, and they flee to the ships. The sea wind hits their faces. The palace shrinks behind them. For the first time, the survivors believe they might actually make it home. But Greek myths rarely allow a clean ending. On the journey back, Ariadne's fate splits depending on the version. In some tellings, Theseus leaves her behind on an island, and in others, the gods pull her into a different destiny. However it happens, the message is sharp. Even the person who saves the hero doesn't always get saved in return. And as Theseus nears Athens, another tragedy waits in silence. Before leaving, Theseus had promised his father, King Aegeus, that if he returned alive, he would raise white sails, so Athens would know the hero had won. But after everything, the labyrinth, the terror, the escape, Theseus forgets. The ship approaches with black sails still raised. From the cliffs, Aegeus sees the dark sails and believes his son is dead. In despair, he throws himself into the sea. So Theseus returns as a hero and steps onto shore into grief. He ends the curse of the labyrinth. He saves his people. He defeats the monster that no one else could face. But he also learns the cruel rule of myth. Victory can still cost everything. Because some shadows don't live in the maze. Some shadows follow you home. And that's why the labyrinth story never fades. Because it isn't just about a monster with horns. It's about the kind of darkness that traps people even before they step inside. Theseus didn't defeat the Minotaur with a miracle. He survived because of courage, yes, but also because of one fragile human idea. Ariadne's thread, a thin line that proved hope can be stronger than fear. But Greek myth never gives a victory without a price. Theseus returns alive, a hero to Athens. Yet the shadows don't end at the maze's exit. Ariadne's fate turns bittersweet, and a single forgotten detail, the color of a sail, can turn triumph into tragedy. It's a reminder that heroes can beat monsters and still be broken by what comes after. So remember this story the next time you hear the word labyrinth. The real terror isn't only getting lost. The real terror is thinking you've escaped, only to realize some darkness follows you home. And Theseus? is the hero who walked into the maze, faced the Minotaur, and returned alive, carrying both freedom and the cost of it.